Hey guys, today I'm going to start something called the Knitter's Guide to Crochet. What I'm going to do is explain crochet terms and explain how to crochet with the mindset of already knowing how to knit. When I first learned how to crochet, it was really difficult to wrap my brain around what they were doing, the different stitches, but now that I'm looking at it with the mind of a knitter, I can see a lot of similarities and a lot of different ways that would have been helpful to explain it to me when I was learning. So this is going to be maybe a 4 or 5 part video series. I will link all the videos to all the parts in the description of each video. So yeah, if you're a knitter and you've been interested in learning how to crochet, let's get started. The first thing we're going to learn is how to cast on. Now casting on for crochet is pretty easy. However, crocheting into what you already cast onto was something I didn't learn for months after I started crocheting. What I learned how to do is to knit my cast on chain. So what I'm using is worsted weight yarn, and to cast on for your crochet project, we're going to knit the cast on chain. So I'm going to be using a 5.0 millimeter knitting needle. So you're going to need 2 of these. And then you're going to need a larger needle, a 5.5 for the bind off. So if you're looking at a crochet pattern and it tells you to chain 11 stitches, you're going to want to cast on 12 stitches on your needle. So you're going to want to always add 1 if you're going to knit your cast on chain. So since this is written from the perspective of knitting, I'm going to just assume that we already all know how to knit here. So using a long tail or a crochet cast on, we're going to cast on 12 stitches. So here are my 12 stitches on my 5.0 millimeter knitting needle. And now I'm simply going to use my 5.5 millimeter knitting needle to bind off all the stitches. And you just do a normal bind off. So knit the first stitch, knit the second stitch, and slip, and then just keep knitting and slipping. You want to bind off all the stitches until there's 1 stitch left. So now I've bound off all of my stitches, and I have something that looks like this with 1 stitch left on here. This is where we're going to slide our knitting needle out and then slide our crochet hook in from right to left. And now we have a piece of work that we can easily crochet into, a lot easier than just chaining. Now, each stitch, crochet stitch, is different than a knit stitch. You see these little pieces up here that look like braids? These are what we're going to be crocheting into. You should count them and you should have 11. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we cast on 12 stitches, but when we bound off, we have 11 now. At least when you're counting crochet stitches. Okay, so now I'm going to go over to how to hold your crochet hook and your yarn now that you have this step down. So when I'm knitting, I hold my crochet hook just like I would hold a knitting needle. So just like this. And I already hold my yarn in my left hand. So if you're a knitter that holds your yarn in your right hand, this might be a little bit hard for you. I believe there is a way to crochet by holding your yarn in this hand, but I'm not quite sure how. So I always hold my yarn in my left hand, which when you crochet is how I've always seen it done. So I just hold my crochet hook like a knitting needle. It works just the same. And then I hold my yarn in the same hand that I always hold my yarn in the exact same way. So this doesn't have to change if you're a knitter that normally holds your yarn in your left hand. Alright guys, that's all for part 1 for the Knitter's Guide to Crochet. Stay tuned for part 2 where we're actually going to learn how to single crochet from the perspective of knitting. Have a great day!